I'm a politics graduate and a law student in the UK, and my first language is Bulgarian. I'm here to tell you how I became fluent in English. Hello class! There's a reason why all of my videos have subtitles. Can you guess why? Imagine a little 12-year-old girl sitting in front of her parents' computer after school and desperately wanting to watch the new episode of Naruto. However, Naruto is in Japanese and the girl is Bulgarian, and there are barely any anime fans in Bulgaria or translators of anime. So what can the girl do? She goes on one of those bad pirate websites and searches for Naruto with, you guessed it, English subtitles. Why? Because she already knows that English is the most spoken language in the world, and she has been learning it at school for about 4 hours per week. And then there she is, watching episode after episode and using all of her brain power to read and understand what's going on. Fast forward, the girl is now 14 and oh, how much she wants to watch the new episode of Supernatural right now. She doesn't really need the subtitles anymore. She can understand English quite well. But, oh, there's so much screaming, so much mumbling, and she wants to know every single word Dean Winchester says. So she turns on the English subtitles and she listens and she reads.
You think you're funny.
I think I'm adorable.
And she hasn't turned off the English captions since. So, class, why do we think watching foreign and English content with English subtitles is important for becoming fluent? It challenges us and gets us to concentrate more. We can look up words we don't know. We can see the sentence structure. We learn how to pronounce English better. Books will always be your best friend. I started reading books in English when I was about 12, and I don't mean the books your teachers tell you to read. You read what you find interesting. The first books I read in English were the Gemma Doyle trilogy and Vampire Academy. Honestly, great books for teenagers, a bit cringy now, but great back then. I also started reading manga and comic books. And I'm sure a lot of people will tell you to underline the words you don't know so you can look them up. No. When you were learning your own language as a kid, did you open up the dictionary every time you didn't understand a word? No. Go with the flow. You should aim to understand from the context. And only after you've read the full paragraph and you still can't understand the word or words, then you open up the dictionary. And I will say that every time I've underlined a word and thought, I'm going to look it up later, I never did. Ever. Waste of time. Now, having someone grade your writing is always good. However, writing for your school and for your essays and doing your homework, that is not real communication. I have 2 tips for you here. One is to keep a diary in English and write every day, even if just a few sentences per day.
Dear diary, a chipmunk asked me my name today. I told him it was Joe. That lie will haunt me forever.
And 2 is to engage in online discussions. Back in my day, Twitter wasn't really that popular, so I used forums. When you engage in conversations about topics you find interesting, then the more you want to read and the more you want to write, and it stops feeling like studying. Keep in mind, this is coming from someone who had 0 patience when it came to doing homework. I refused to do my English homework. It was to the point that my teachers thanked me every time I actually submitted my homework. I also had no patience for paying attention in class and doing the tasks that we were supposed to do. You know, the teacher would be like, okay class, you have 10 minutes to do tasks 1 and 2, go. And by the end of the 10 minutes, I would have completed exercise 5. So I would have nothing to do and I would be extremely bored, and I would just keep on doing more and more of the tasks and working ahead of what everyone else was doing. And in about a month, I would be done with the whole textbook that we had for the whole academic year, minus the listening tasks, because the teacher had all of the recordings. I am not the best example. If any students are watching this, don't do what I did. Be a good student, please. Don't annoy your teachers. I'm telling you this so you understand how important it is to do grammar exercises. With that said, if now you ask me what a certain tense is or a grammar rule is, I can't help you. Past perfect, present perfect. There's nothing here. Nothing. When it comes to speaking, again, I am not the best example. I didn't start engaging in English conversations until I began working in a call center, because I had very bad anxiety. What I did though is that I quite often read out loud, and when I was watching TV shows, I mimicked the pronunciation of the actors.
Je m'appelle. Je m'appelle.
Mais poupou!
Now, my pronunciation is not consistent at all. It keeps changing depending on who I'm talking to, where I'm living, who I'm living with, what show I'm watching recently, how hard I find it to pronounce a certain word. A lot of factors. I have never been consistently taught one pronunciation the way I was taught English spelling rather than American spelling. And at this point, I kind of feel like a sponge that just absorbs whatever pronunciation is thrown at me for some time, and then it gets squeezed out and it absorbs something new. So don't get too stressed about your pronunciation. As long as people can understand you, it's all good. And honestly, I find it kind of funny whenever I'm talking to someone for the first time and they can't pinpoint where I'm from because of my pronunciation. And then at some point they're just like, I'm sorry, where are you from? So basically, even though I started learning English when I was 4, and by that I mean, hey, it's for apple, you know, that type of stuff, I didn't start speaking the language until I was 21. And by the time I started speaking in English, I was already talking to myself and thinking fully in English. And it took me so long because of 2 reasons. First, my English education was very heavily based on writing, reading, and listening, and speaking just kind of got left behind. And second, I was constantly in my head thinking that people would judge me if I made mistakes, if I mispronounced something, if I got the grammar wrong, you know, all of that stuff. So what made me overcome those things was putting myself in a situation where I had no choice but to speak the language and speak it well. Because when you're working, you have no choice but to take things seriously and be professional. Now, going to an English-speaking country is also good practice, of course, but you will probably engage in conversations that are a lot more free and friendly, and you might find switching to professional a bit more difficult. And you will also be bombarded by so many different pronunciations that if you don't have a solid foundation, you might get freaked out.
What can be done to make sure that those with a disability are able to move around more freely and the place is accessible?
I'm really sorry. Please, could you do it very slowly?
Once I moved to the UK, my anxiety started showing once again, and I made the conscious effort to surround myself with only English-speaking students. Meaning that I avoided Bulgarians like my life depended on it, because I only wanted to speak in English. I have noticed that a lot of foreigners tend to huddle together in groups, and I get it. It gives you a sense of security. In a way, it helps you stay connected to your country and your culture, and it's also a fast way to make friends in a new country. But I honestly believe that the whole point of studying abroad in a different country that does not speak your own language is to fully focus on that country and surround yourself only with people who speak that language and get the most out of it. You can speak your own language when you talk to your parents on the phone or you go back home for the holidays. There you have it, a quick run through how I became fluent in English. I hope you got 1 or 2 useful tips from this video, and good luck with your studies. And if you want to learn more about what studying in the UK is like, then click here. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.